This is a CBS News special report. Good morning, everyone. I'm Major Garrett in Washington. We are coming on the air with important news from the Supreme Court, where justices have just ruled on a case that deals with whether states are allowed to ban the medical transition of minors. In 2023, Tennessee passed a law banning hormones, puberty blockers, and surgeries for children under 18. Civil rights groups and children who identify as trans sued, saying the law discriminated against transgender people because it denies them certain medical treatment. A lower court previously upheld the Tennessee law banning drugs and surgeries for minors who want to change their sex, saying it did not violate the Equal Protection Clause. Currently, 27 states have laws or policies that ban or in some way limit access to gender-affirming care for minors. Joining me now with the latest on this, CBS News chief legal correspondent Jan Crawford. Jan, what did the court say?
The court is upholding the Tennessee law, and like it, laws in 26 other states that ban or greatly restrict the use of these hormones, puberty blockers, and potentially surgeries for minors, people who are under 18 who identify as transgender or say they have gender dysphoria and would like to change their biological sex. So
is the court basically saying that the state has an interest in things that affect or could affect the lifetime of minors, and that's why that law and the limits it imposes has been upheld? Yes,
two things. And obviously this is one of the most controversial and closely watched cases of the term. It's written today by the Chief Justice. It's a 6-3 ruling. The court is saying that children who identify as transgender don't have a constitutional right to get puberty blockers or hormones to change their biological sex. And then it's saying that states have this interest in regulating medicine. They are entitled to make these decisions, and especially where, as the court put it here in this decision, they're novel drugs with potentially life-altering consequences, that it should not be up to the federal courts or a federal judge. Those are issues when it's a novel treatment, as many of these are for these uses, to allow the states to work that out as they see fit. Now, as I said, this means that laws in currently 27 states that already are on the books, those laws will be upheld. States will be free to ban this kind of medical treatment for children, so that if you're taking those kind of medications, if you're a parent and you want your children to be able to, you're going to have to go to states that do allow it. And those, we've got a map of it, you can see, those are kind of on the coast that are still going to be allowing. It's just up to the states. The court's not saying you can't ban it. The court's saying that you can if you want to. So it's going to be up to the states.
You mentioned parents, Jan. Where do they fit into this equation?
Well, there's a separate issue on whether parents have a separate right to get this kind of medical treatment for their children. That constitutional issue was not at stake in this case. This came about after, you said, Tennessee passed that law in 2023. A group of parents, the American Civil Liberties Union, they sued. The Biden administration joined in that suit. And they argued that transgender children had a constitutional right to get these drugs because other kids got them that had other medical conditions. Some had early onset puberty. There were certain cancers where doctors were prescribing these kind of drugs to affect their development. So they argued that transgender kids should have a right to that as well. The court flatly rejected that and agreed with Tennessee's arguments today that this is not treating people differently because of their sex or their status. This is states deciding based on the drugs themselves that transgender girls or people who identify as a transgender boy, none of them would have access to this kind of medication. So they're rejecting claims that there's any kind of equal protection argument. And they're also rejecting or deciding not to decide for now, and this would have been a major expansion. They're not going to decide how they're going to look at transgender people generally under the Constitution. There was an argument that the court should closely scrutinize laws that treat transgender children differently based on that status. Say, treat them and look closely at the laws like you would a racial minority, for example. They're not going to do that. They're focusing on these medicines here at this case and saying states can continue to regulate these kind of drugs.
I want to bring in Jessica Levenson, CBS News legal contributor and Loyola Law School professor. Her work focuses, as you well know, on constitutional law, election law, and the Supreme Court. Jessica, picking up on Jan's point from just a moment ago, so this does not, in all likelihood, resolve future litigation over the status and societal comfort or discomfort with transgenderism in our country?
Well, it does not, period. And I think Jan explained this exactly right. So the court is looking at this law and saying, what is the classification on the basis of? Is it on the basis of transgender status? The court says no, it's on the basis of age, because this says minors cannot use certain treatments, and it's on the basis of medical usage. And so the court says we don't even need to get to this question of, exactly as Jan was explaining, how do we treat groupings, laws that say we're going to, for instance, burden transgender people. We don't even need to get there because we're in a situation where this law doesn't do that. And therefore, there's no reason to look at this law with a searching eye, with a higher level of scrutiny. The court applies the lowest level of scrutiny, rational basis, and concludes that the law does survive that. As Jan said, this is all about the Equal Protection Clause, and this now allows states to make the determination as to whether or not they will bar transgender minors or anyone, to the court's point, from obtaining certain medical treatment for gender transition therapy.
And Jessica, would it be fair to say that this case in any way affects parental rights broadly? Or is this a kind of narrow case in which, though parents might have an interest and might want to advocate on behalf of their children, the court said if you live in a state that has barred this, you're going to have to live within those state laws?
So maybe both. And so there's actually another part of this case that didn't go up to the Supreme Court. We've been talking about the Equal Protection Clause. There's another part of the 14th Amendment, the Due Process Clause. And we know that that part of the Constitution protects other rights and liberties. And maybe one of those rights and liberties is the right of parents to direct their children's medical care. That wasn't the constitutional question before the court, but I think that there is a lingering question of, if a similar case, if a similar law is challenged, not based on the Equal Protection Clause, but based on this question of whether or not parents enjoy a fundamental right to say that they want their children to obtain this kind of care, that's a different legal question that's not resolved today.
Thank you so much for that clarification. My thanks to Jessica Levenson and Jan Crawford, of course, here at the desk. Our coverage will continue on CBS News 24/7, your local news, and tonight on the CBS Evening News. It's been a CBS News special report. I'm Major Garrett in Washington. Good day.